Greetings, friends. Cole here from Tales of Trusia. Now, without further ado, I give you Cameron Ducard, founder of the Sorcery Institute and first High Spellmaster of Arthuria. Born in the years following the defeat of Vorkalt and the unification of Trusia, Cameron was amongst the first youth to receive the magical capabilities promised to men by Zeros. Cameron was born in the quaint town of Stormshore on Arthuria's western coastline. Talon, Cameron's father, was a stern man and a veteran of the War of Vorkalt. In his later years, Talon made an honest life for his family as a painter of high quality. Nevertheless, the quaint life of Stormshore never really agreed with the young Cameron. He seemed always mixed up with the town guard and the mischievous youth of the town, even once spending a day in the stocks for startling the Baron's horse. Things only became more complicated for Cameron after his magical abilities manifested themselves late in his 10th year. Like many other similarly affected youth of his time, Cameron would be taken to the Mountain Vale and placed in communes. During his time in the communes of the Mountain Vale, Cameron would excel as a pupil of the arcane arts. His proficiency with the arcane caught the eye of one of the elven masters, named Jian Rodakshi. Master Rodakshi grew very fond of Cameron and soon took him as a personal apprentice. It was under the tutelage of Rodakshi that Cameron would expand his knowledge of Trusia greatly. The pair traveled the continent for 3 years. During this time, Cameron was able to study the vast cultures and peoples of the continent, developing a keen interest in ancient customs. Along their journeys, Master Rodakshi would teach Cameron the arts of telekinetic magics, and begin his instruction in elemental magics. Cameron's apprenticeship under the Elven Master was cut short, however. Soon after their return to the Mountain Vale, the Master and Apprentice duo was charged with a critical mission into the ruined lands. Of this journey or the purpose of the mission, little is known. Master Rodakshi would perish during this journey, an event which impacted Cameron greatly. He returned to the civilized world a much more reserved version of the outgoing young dawnman that departed from the Mountain Vale. Even given this grievous loss, Cameron did not give up on his studies. Following his journey, he remained in the Mountain Vale, absorbing all the knowledge he could. Around his 86th year, Cameron once again traveled the continent, spreading the teachings of magic amongst the gifted people he encountered. During this time, he became renowned continent-wide as one of the foremost teachers in telekinetic magics. With his name spreading throughout the land, Cameron soon developed a sizable population of prospective students. Realizing he could no longer continue his travel with such a number of students, Cameron petitioned successfully to the mayor of Forktown to allow him to turn an old abandoned monastery in the center of the town into a school, renaming the monastery the Sorcery Sanctum. While serving as High Master of the Sanctum, Cameron took particular interest in the training of a pupil by the name of Barrett Delvernay. Delvernay, much like Cameron, was a mischievous and troubled youth, prone to being on the wrong side of the law. Delvernay proved to be a magical prodigy, with skills even surpassing a younger Cameron. Cameron and Delvernay soon struck up a bond more alike to father and son than master and apprentice, with Delvernay's talents increasing exponentially under the watchful eye of Cameron. Delvernay would soon become an apprentice instructor at the Sanctum in his 20th year, and would be one of the most staunch supporters of Cameron. When he was summoned away to New Methlos by King Draymond I and asked to serve in the newly created position of First Lord of Sorcery. In the 20 years following Cameron's appointment as the King's magical advisor, the relationship between Delvernay and Cameron deteriorated quickly. Cameron had received disturbing reports of the prideful and arrogant way Delvernay had become, with Delvernay openly criticizing those without the desire or talents for magic. The rift between them was only made greater by Cameron's decision to not name Delvernay as the new High Master of the Sanctum. Soon, Delvernay would leave with a group of students devoted to him and disappeared into the unknown seas. The loss of his pupil and friend weighed heavily on Cameron, and for the next 100 years he threw himself into organizing his school of sorcery, creating codes of conduct and bylaws for his institution, as well as curriculum and rank structures within the organization. Cameron also oversaw the construction of a new academy in the capital of Arthuria, which would serve as the headquarters for his new organization, royally recognized as the Arthurian Sorcery Institute. In his 260th year, Cameron began to feel the strains of age upon his body. Delvernay also sensed the weakening of his former master. Their eventual conflict began when Delvernay sent emissaries of his newly constructed mage militant back to the mainland. These emissaries sought to turn and corrupt the magical youth and members of Cameron's organization, paving the way for Delvernay to return and rule a continent presided over by a magically elite class of people. Cameron was not quite weak enough to allow this intrusion to stand, and led his institution in adamantly opposing Delvernay's followers. Cameron and his institution expelled the mage militant from the continent, where they would return to the Isle of the Mage and report their failures to Delvernay. Angered by the interference of his former master, Delvernay issued a direct challenge to Cameron to meet him and duel for supremacy upon the Isle of the Mage. Cameron accepted the challenge of his former pupil. Traveling alone to the Isle of the Mage, he was shocked by the appearance of his former pupil, who now wore an obsidian claw for a hand. and looked as though he had aged well beyond his years. Delvernay rebuked his former master for being too weak to realize what their true power and responsibility were. Cameron attempted to reason with his former pupil to no avail. Soon the two began a titanic duel of magical prowess, which shook the very oceans. Neither Cameron or Delvernay would emerge from the citadel of the Isle of the Mage. However, the plans of the Mage Militant were successfully thwarted by the actions of Cameron that day. In memory of the service of Cameron Ducard, a statue outside the Arthurian Sorcery Institute was erected, which still stands to this day as a reminder of the kindness and selflessness that students of the Institute should strive to achieve. Cameron is remembered in the histories of Trusia as one of the most powerful spellcasters to ever live. That concludes our look into the life of Cameron Ducard. I hope you have enjoyed this video. We will see you again soon on Tales of Trusia.